Good evening. Welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diabloii.net. We are recording this on a Saturday, a day earlier than usual because I have busy stuff tomorrow. And we were limited on guest availability tonight. It's the summer. People are out of town. People are traveling, etc. Maybe they just got a new girlfriend and they're busy. Why are you in town and not traveling? And do you have a girlfriend in MJiNSpace?
I have a wife. So once you've been married for a certain amount of years, you don't have to spend every moment together. You know each other pretty well. Maybe you're even sick of each other. Though we're not.
Yeah, I said you have to not spend every moment together after a while.
Yeah, exactly. So
absence makes the heart grow fonder.
There you go.
Something like that. And I don't have a girlfriend or a life of any sort, so I'm here available. But I'm busy this next week, so we will hopefully post this on Monday. And it's been difficult finding guests lately. A lot of guys are traveling right out of town, or I haven't heard from them lately. They're not playing the PTR. They're not playing at all. So if you have wanted to be on the podcast in the past, and I have shunned you like a diseased leper, now is your chance to be an undiseased leper. And you can drop me an email at flux@inkgamers.com, and I will get back to you, and hopefully we can get a little bit of fresh meat on here for you to poke and taunt there, MJiNSpace. Would that be cool for you?
Fresh meat. Doesn't the butcher say that?
I don't remember. I don't play old games. I only play new games.
I see.
And have you survived the hazing rituals when you were first on the podcast yet? You've gotten over that. It's not too bad, right?
Yeah, you'll live through it. Yeah.
Well, usually, anyway, as far as you know.
Yeah.
So what's going on now? The PTR Season 4 has just been going for a week, and it's going to restart again on Tuesday because Blizzard hates you and your new level 70 character.
Yeah, that's right. No, I'm glad they're wiping everything. I totally agree with the arguments they gave, and definitely that 2,000% legendary find skews the results. So yeah, I think that's a good idea actually.
Do you have a Season 4 character right now?
No, I don't. I haven't even. I've just been messing.
So you're glad that other people are being wiped?
Yeah, exactly. It's not my problem. I don't care about you guys at all.
Will you be making a new Season 4 character?
Probably yes. Just to test things. That's.
Oh, well, enjoy your 1 to 70 grind.
Yeah.
So we have the patch 2.3, the new stuff. I'm sure Blizzard's going to put up. They said the new patch is coming next week, so probably the minute after I post this, they'll put a whole new patch out, and every single topic on the show will become obsolete. So good luck with that.
Yeah. I
was able to play the Season 4 PTR when it was the only bug they had was that you could make crafted items without a level requirement, which made it a little bit faster to get to 70, but just not tremendously faster.
Just a bit, huh?
Well, you can't make the really high level stuff because you need Death's Breaths, and you need stuff to upgrade the blacksmith that you don't get until level 65. So.
Oh, okay.
But you could definitely get. I mean, at level, I was level 11. I had a 66 damage weapon, which obviously is not exactly a Gem of Ease Ancient, but compared to the 18.6% weapons I was finding, it was definitely faster. But
a little, yeah.
18.6 DPS weapons, not percent anyway. So I mean, it was 4.5 hours instead of 6.5 hours or something like that to get to 70. It wasn't a big difference, and there was no community buff. So we'll get to that in a minute. I have some comments about how materials are and how balancing works and how materials are actually balanced now.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. I was looking at my character when I'm level. Well, now I'm P350 because we've had the buff going for a while, but I got to almost P200 before they turned the buff back on. And I had 1,700 white, 1,600 blue, 1,300 yellow materials at that point.
Really?
Which would never in a billion years happen in any previous season.
No, you would always run out of blues and whites before you...
Yeah, you'd have 47 white, 18 blue, and 4,400 yellow.
Yep, exactly.
It's just totally different.
That's good. That's good to hear.
And the reason I had fewer yellows is because I wasn't picking up rares very often, You just get, you do everything initially, but after a while, you're okay, I have plenty of these.
And I think that's going to change. I'll talk about that a bit later, but yeah.
Yeah, and you only get one material when you salvage yellows, whereas you get multiples from white and blues. But basically you get lots more from odious collectors, the green goblins, and you get lots of them from yellow chests and lots of them from caches and stuff. So they've done a nice job with the materials. But anyway, you were just checking it before we got on the podcast here and said, wow, there's no queue. I'm like, yeah, there's really not been any queue the last week or so. And you're like, there was a queue before that, though, for a while before Season 4 started.
Well, it was worse than simply there being a queue. The issue was that when you actually...
Are you going to QQ about the queue?
QQ about the queue. Once you actually got into a game, which you got into by joining someone else's game, what then happened was that, the database was so taxed that none of your items would load. Not in your inventory or in your stash. And then on top of that, at least with the people I was playing with, nobody was even running bounties. They were just basically running rifts and greater rifts over and over again. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I could do that on the regular server. I want to run bounties. I want to get the new materials. I want to test all the new stuff. And so I wasn't even able to test the things I wanted to test. So I was like, forget it. I'm just going to wait. So I hope no one comes back to the test server. Just stay away, everybody. Don't come.
Or people would do the bounties in a game, and then the game would stay up for another 4.5 days because people would just keep passing off the same game. You know, since they never reset, you just could never do bounties again.
Yeah, that was another problem. So
we had this this DII PTR clan we set up, and it's already at 150 people immediately.
I'm in it. The problems I'm talking about were in the DII clan. So
yeah, and people would be passing off the same game forever, and it would just be like, or someone have a game be like, Act 5 bounty is still available. Who wants it? It's like just you're passing them around like your ex-girlfriend at a frat party.
Oh.
So yeah, the cute one thing we kept joking about. I was like, if you could spend Paragon points to get shorter queues, would you do it? Everyone's like, yes.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I would spend all my Paragon points for shorter. That was when they were like 8-hour queues, So
yeah. Pretty bad.
But that was like the last podcast 2 weeks ago was a lot about queue stuff. Was QQ about queues,
QQ
right?
About queue. No, it's much better now, I guess. We don't really have anything to complain about anymore.
Yeah, I've had really little. The whole thing before was it was much shorter queues if you played hardcore for some reason.
Yeah.
It always seemed like there was I always get this vision of like a pie chart, and they've allocated a certain amount of server space to all these different things.
Yeah, that's obvious. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
And it seemed like if you would try to get on the game as a low-level character, you could get in pretty quickly, or like campaign mode was quickly. And if you wanted to get it on T10 with softcore, you would just wait for like 14 hours.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I would get in a hardcore game in like 3.5 minutes, and people were like, yeah, well, good luck. See you guys later.
Yeah.
That's what you get for being a pussy, right?
Yeah, I guess. That's what you get for being a...
I've been playing softcore in Season 4, and there's been very little waiting, so hopefully that will continue as they reset the whole thing just to F with me.
Yeah, and it may also be, I don't know, it may be just because you were... Well, I assume you were running adventure mode once you hit level 70, but until then you probably weren't, so...
No, I was adventure mode all the way in Season 4.
Okay.
It's been fun.
Okay.
Well, plus I have the special bonus for being clan leader.
I see.
And I have the attended BlizzCon Feat of Strength, which cuts 85% off your claim for queue time.
I hate you.
And those are multiplicative, so actually it's pretty quick that way.
I see.
Works out nicely. Every extra 10 people that join your clan, you also get a 10% cooldown reduction on queue lines.
That would be awesome.
So there's really a lot of nice features there. They're kind of secret stuff, though, so don't tell Wyatt I said that.
Okay.
So have you played... Season 4 was interesting. I'll get to that in a minute about the materials and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the big thing in Season 3, we did this podcast 2 weeks ago, and it was all about, the new patches, the new gear. That's kind of been evolving. And they're going to put the huge patch out this week, and certainly going to do a lot of set balancing, it seems like, and some of the Kanai's cube balancing and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's no point in going on about, overbalanced recipes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some of the interesting features, though, the seasonal journey was available when the PTR first got going. Season journey. I keep wanting to call it seasonal for some reason, but it's just called season journey. It seems like it should be a couple of letters there. But I did a news post about that yesterday with a bunch of screenshots and stuff. So people who don't read, you can look at the pretty pictures at least.
Yeah, actually, that was one thing I was really interested about. So I mean, I'd just love to hear kind of what's going on with that, because did it actually add any sort of depth, make it more interesting, kind of hitting those achievements?
Well, I urge people to obviously look at the news post, because I mean that has all. I took a screenshot of every one of the achievements, and you can actually see them. They're just achievements, except they're kind of set up in this book form, and they're very grouped together logically. Mm-hmm. So you start off at chapter 1, and it's all just basic stuff. It's like find the mystic and put on your pants the right one leg at a time. Mm-hmm. Turn over a rock, that kind of thing. Okay, not quite that easy, but you get those, and as they pop up, you get new little banner patterns for every few of them you do, and you get new what the hell's your picture thing called? I always forget that. Profile.
Oh yeah.
Whatever, your little pictures avatar that appears in the top left corner of the screen. And you get a little background for that, which is kind of cool. And you see other players when they're playing, and they'll have little cool ones with like red drop shadow and stuff on it. They're kind of shiny looking.
Yep.
But I mean, I did an article about that just last night, and I've already forgotten all the details, of course. But there's 8 or 9 of these things with each chapter, and you get a new chapter and you advance the next one. And then it's like get to level 70 and clear a rift in under 5 minutes on T6 or higher, and put 5 things, pull 5 legendary powers from Kanai's cube. And it functions kind of as it's sort of a visual tutorial. I mean, they're achievements, but they're just ones you really should be doing. Like, otherwise you're not playing the game right.
Right.
And I can see it being really useful for new players who don't really know what they're doing so much.
I actually think that's good.
yeah, it'll be like kill the KeyWarden. KeyWardens are useful for this reason. You'd be like, oh, what's a KeyWarden? You can imagine some noob, right?
That's actually something that playing through a lot of the new content on the PTR, I was actually thinking about, which is the game is getting enough depth to it now that to come in as a new player, you could really be lost on what you were supposed to be doing and when, where, and why. Like you could run the standard campaign mode, maybe even beat Diablo, and then get kind of lost on where you should go and what you should do because there's so much in the game now. So I think that's a really, really good call on their part.
Yeah, so I grabbed the news post here looking at the pictures, like some of the Chapter 1 stuff, extract a legendary, set Chapter 4. So this is kind of like what you're doing when you first get to level 70,
Yep.
Replace a property with enchanting. Enchanting is very useful for replacing unwanted primary affix on a near-perfect item, Cubed. Extract a legendary power with Kanai's Cube. Kanai's Cube can be found in Act 3 of the Ruins of Sescheron. I'm on fire. Slay these bosses and get on Torment 1 or higher. Slay a KeyWarden, all this kind of stuff. So it really is pretty useful recommendations for what you're doing, and I'm sure people even who aren't super into everything will get some value out of it.
That's good.
And they do get harder eventually. I mean, I was up to Champion, which is like page 7 of this stuff, and it's like, extracts 25 legendary powers using Kanai's Cube. That's a lot of
that's grindy.
Cash.
That's just really grindy at that point. But if you're on page 7 or whatever, then at that point, hopefully you kind of have a grasp of the game, and you're just sort of it's something you would do anyway at some point. So just like
that one's a little grindy because I guess unless you're playing multiple different classes, I mean, you don't need there's weapon, armor, and jewelry.
Right.
You don't need 8 or 9 of each of those. You're not just like randomly picking one each game and saying, hey, let's try this one.
Not yet, at least. Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I was switching around a little bit for experimentation, and as you find them, you're grabbing new ones in, but it takes a while to build up the materials. They only come from other caches, and you need one of each for all of those.
And I really like that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to run all the bounties now, which I think is a very, very good thing.
So one of the funny things I've noticed is, of course, that Zoltan Kulle is the guy who's part of the Cube, the NPC that runs this stuff, and yet, of course, he's still in the game.
Yep.
So you can, talk to him in town, and then you're like, hey, what's up, dude? And then you go to, Act 2, and you kill him. What are the ethical ramifications of talking to him in town and then going and killing him?
Well, he's dead. That's like another dimension, dude. Come on.
Well, what did he clone himself? I mean, does he have 2 souls? How is he in town and in the
cannot
dungeon
die.
at the same time?
He can't. He's a Nephilim. He can't die, dude. Come on.
Well, neither can I, apparently, unless I'm playing hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Cain is alive and dead at the same time sometimes, but at least he's not standing around in town waiting to ID your shit anymore, It's a little strange. You're like, hey, Zoltan Kulle, you're awesome. You have, cool lores. I'm going to go kill you now and get a big chest full of goodies for you. Thanks.
I like Zoltan Kulle. He was actually the only character in the original D3 story that I thought had any sort of depth or uniqueness. Like every other character in Diablo 3 is like this super one-sided, kind of like a character actor in a really bad movie. But Zoltan Kulle, he's kind of villainous, but at the same time, he never lies to you. He actually is right. But he doesn't just say that outright. He kind of is a snake about how he says things. He's not direct. I like his character in the game. So I thought it was awesome that they brought him back. And you actually...
Yeah, as you say, as people have pointed out, he actually is correct about everything he says, He warns you about the demons, he warns you about Tyrael, etc. And if you just listened to him, you'd have been fine.
You'd have been fine.
He's like, don't get the Black Soulstone, asshole. They're going to use it against you. You're like, I'm going to the Black Soulstone now.
Yep.
Tyrael said it was okay.
And then you're just like, shut up, punk, and you kill him before he can even say anything to you. He doesn't actually even say he's never going to give you the stone. He's just like, dude, you're getting punked out. Like, if I hand you the stone right now, bad things are going to happen. And then you're just like, shut the fuck up and just kill him.
Hey, thanks for taking the stone now.
Yeah.
This way Asmodean can destroy Leah and ruin heaven or whatever. I'm kind of fuzzy on the plot at this point, but something like that. And then Malti comes out and bad things happen then. So speaking of bad things happening with Malti, the interesting experience I had playing Season 4 was playing softcore. And I hadn't done a softcore character from level 1, ever, since, the first week of Diablo 3. And I had done softcore on the PTR before, but only when there was a community buff, so it didn't really count. You would just get to level 70 in 10 seconds, and then you just, race around in T6 rifts.
Right.
That was patches ago, when there only were T6 rifts. So playing softcore from the start, I had done seasonal characters in all the seasons so far, but that was in hardcore, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it's actually really hard in some ways, just because you're playing like above your level in difficulty sometimes.
Pushing as hard as you possibly can, attempting to level up as quickly as you possibly can. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like you're over your head. You have crappy toughness, and it's like you're a glass cannon. I mean, you're never really a glass cannon unless you're in like GR50 in hardcore, you know, because you're being careful because death.
Mm-hmm.
And you get. For one thing, I've realized you really can be very low on health quite often and not die.
Yep.
I mean, you just kind of don't let that happen in hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
You always heal or you back up to be safe.
Yep.
And you get used to it. Still just me. I always make jokes about when you watch one of those live streams and like Nevelissus is standing right in the middle of like 7 Frozens and doesn't even move. I'm like, move, no! It's like when you're driving with someone who's a really bad driver and you like break their floor mat, like stabbing the invisible brake pedal. That's how hardcore players feel watching softcore streamers or live streamers, those Blizzard play your way things. Because we're like, no, don't, no. I'm like, my mouse hand is twitching, and I'm like, no, get the Zoltan, move. Because what do they care? They're softcore. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. But it does. It does. Which is that if you are actually trying to be good, like, you can stand there and just die, or you can be good enough to almost never die in softcore. And I think that's just a decision of the softcore player. The game isn't forcing you to restart when you fail horribly. So
it certainly matters if you're trying to do higher grit.
It matters a lot, and that's one of the things I like. Like hardcore and softcore greater rifts are almost the same, and the only difference being that you can make a minor error in a softcore game and not lose everything. But if you want to pass the highest possible grift you can't die ever. You have to play nearly perfect.
I did get the sense of watching a stream when I was playing multiplayer stuff, especially on the way to 70, because people were just, they weren't exactly zerging their way through stuff, but it's like they just wouldn't react. They would just stand there and watch the Frozen blow up on top of them. It was like, oh, I'm dead again. Or they would just, like, we would get stuff, you'd be playing something that had dangerous projectiles coming. We were playing for a while, like in the 30, 40, 50 range. I was with 3 other guys playing on T2.
Okay.
So pretty much all of us were getting one-shotted by anything. But some of us, of course that means you just don't get hit by shit, So I was like really dodging and staying, being careful and moving around. And other people kept getting killed so much, they would have to start asking for resurrections because, you only get so many before you can't do it on your corpse, which I didn't even know was a feature, to be honest.
You didn't know that was a feature.
I didn't know. I haven't played softcore in ROS. I played only softcore I've done is in previous PTRs, and I'd had some problems dying in terms of greater risk.
Yes, if you die so many times in the same...
like 3 times or something?
No, you have to die literally like 5 to 6 times in the same area within a period of about 5 minutes. And if you do that, then you no longer can simply resurrect in your current position. You have to resurrect in town or at the beginning of the map unless somebody resurrects you themselves. So they had to die literally a ton of times in the same map in literally less than 5 minutes.
That was I had a couple of games where everyone was dead, and they were like, "Can you res me?" I was like, "Why aren't they just resing themselves?" I'm like, "I guess I better go res them." And I'm kiting back like 5 screens against the Guardian. It wasn't like I never died. I was dying occasionally, but just I'm so used to not trying to get the hell all the way out of stuff.
Yep.
And sometimes it's faster just to die and restart where you are, right? So there's no penalty, so why not?
This is a really random statement, but I think that you should go try playing Heroes of the Storm at some point, because you might be surprised just how good at the game you are. That even though I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're, in your 30s or 40s, that you will be significantly better at that game than most, like, 19 or 18-year-olds, because they don't give a crap and they don't care about dying in those games. And if you're just, like, playing super careful, even against other players, you might be surprised how hard you crap all over them.
Except they're playing it 14 hours a day because they don't have anything else to do with their time. Oh, wait, just like me.
Oh, yeah.
I played Heroes of the Storm one game at BlizzCon 2 years ago, and I was horrible, but I didn't know how to play it at all, so that's not really a analogy of anything. I'm like, what do the buttons do? I'm like, ASDF? What am I doing here? Where am I moving? I had no idea. I knew literally nothing about it. I hadn't played. I thought it was an RTS. I'm like trying to click and go where my mouse is going and stuff.
Hey, I got to tell you, the best Diablo 3 content right now is in Heroes of the Storm. So you better go get
the newest Diablo 3 content.
Anyway.
So we were mentioning a little bit about. So once we got to 70, I mostly played solo in Season 4 with my softcore character and leveling up and stuff. And it was interesting to see how the progression worked. I played a Demon Hunter, of course. That's all I know anymore. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I found all the Marauders set. I'd found at one point I think 8 Marauders items and like 2 Natalias and 3 Unhallowed Essences. So I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm playing M6 again.
You have to play M6.
Which was kind of an evil flashback, but it was fairly effective. I hadn't played it since season 2, and it's all been Natalias lately.
It's actually really good right now. I mean, I can't say, because when I got on the PTR, I first started on my softcore Demon Hunter that was non-seasonal, and I hadn't played that character since Season 3 started at all, not once. So I didn't have Natalias, and I didn't have Unhallowed. I was forced to use M6, but I've been surprised with just how powerful and effective it is. I can easily run T10 right now, and I can most likely probably do at least level 50 Greater Rift, if not higher. So I'll just have to. I've enjoyed.
Well, T10 is GR45, so if you can do that.
Yeah. So it's.
Yeah, I was doing T8 pretty happily with it, but it was so much slower than Natalias. I put on much lower quality Natalias and could immediately do T8 in like a third the time.
Yeah,
just because it's such a faster build.
It sucked. It really, really sucked in T10 until I got a couple of things inside the cube, and then once I did, I gave it another shot, and it's just ridiculously easy. So I don't know. We'll have to. I'm sure that when the power of Natalia's spikes the same way that the power of Marauders is spiking with Kanai's cube, it'll probably still be better. But you can use M6. It is viable now.
Yeah, that's what I did all the way to gear up other stuff. But yeah, I wish they weren't resetting the season because I have a little time to play tonight, but then I have no time tomorrow or all week, and it's obviously they're going to wipe the whole server. They said once the new patch starts. So the other thing you had a benefit of is coming back with the old characters. You already had legendary gems.
That's true.
That's one of the big changes. I've been a post about that about a week and a half ago or something. How you can no longer slow roll to get all the legendary gems quickly, and probably everybody knows what that means. Yep. Why don't you describe what slow rolling at the start of a new season means?
Well, for anybody that doesn't know, what that means is it means that you basically go into a Greater Rift and you clear it really fast, but instead of completing the rift up to, in other words, hitting 100% on your progress bar, you just go, leave the rift. Wait until your time is almost up, and then you complete it right at the very end of that 15 minutes. That way, you upgrade your key, so you're stepping up in keys one step at a time, and you're collecting legendaries, or you are getting a legend. I think then there's some way to do it with 4 people where you never ever. You wrote an article on that. I don't remember, but where you
needed higher level keys for that to work to start with.
I see. But you can basically just keep powering up your legendary gems very quickly and get a ton of legendary items, and you can't do that anymore because you don't get a key regardless when you finish a rift, right?
Yeah, so the whole trick of it in the old days was that you could do multiple Greater Rifts from a single Greater Rift key. Yeah. You would just upgrade the key by 1 or 2 levels each time.
Yeah.
And so if you were, say, doing T1 when you first got the key, which I think was actually what you had to do to get keys in the old days, you can now get Greater Rift keys from Guardians on any level of Rift, but the odds are crappy. Until you're on T2 or T3, it's 10% or less. So it's kind of tough. I mean, I did a bunch of regular rifts on the way to 70 and never got a Greater Rift key. And I was thinking it had to be T1, but the rest. Actually, one of those little pop-ups you get when your levels are loading, get those little tooltips.
Yeah.
I actually saw one in Season 4 that said you can get Greater Rift keys from any level. So I'm like, well, I guess that confirms it. I didn't get one, but yeah. So you have to run rifts to get Greater Rift keys, and you can only get 1 legendary gem per Greater Rift key because they only drop from Greater Rift Guardians.
Right.
Whereas in the old days, you could get 10, 11, 12 of them, even just going up to T2. So it was really quick to get all your legendary gems in the old days. There's 19 of them now, I believe. They've added another one in Season 4 called Bane of the Stricken. Close enough.
Stricken.
Which is exactly 1 season late in terms of being a useful gem. Now that they've nerfed Guardians, it's like Taeguk's kind of. It increases the damage, but it's only against a single target.
Oh, okay.
So the more times you hit the same target, I think it adds a 0.5% damage per stack per each hit, which is exactly 1 season late for Barbarians to want this, and no one else I don't see has any reason to use it at this point.
Yeah, because if it doesn't help you actually get to the Guardian, it doesn't matter. So
yeah, I don't know why you would use it. If it was 10% per stack, you might use it, but I think it's 1%, so it's who's going to bother? But that would have been awesome for Barb's last season, because they were doing 8-minute Guardian spin fests, right? So
right. Well, this brings up an interesting question, though, which is why do we even need Greater Rift keys at all anymore? I mean, why couldn't they just have the regular Rift keys be the only item in the game, and you can use those to access greater rifts or rifts, and then it wouldn't matter.
Greater rifts are a reward, and you get to get legendary gems from them.
I see.
They're special.
And
there are no more regular rift keys either, so that's one nice thing. You can just do Nephilim rifts all you want forever without ever needing a key.
That's true.
But you got to find the greater rift keys to get there.
Okay.
I mentioned that I got to about P200 before they turned the community buff back on. I had just gotten the last of the legendary gems at that point. I think I was like P175 when I finally got my last legendary gem, which is about 174 levels more than you would get in the old season, right?
Yeah.
So previously, people would just get all the legendary gems immediately. You'd slow roll them, or else you could just, you could do multiple grifts in a row.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't slow rolling, if you were up 5 or 6, you could still do 3 or 4 per key.
Yep.
And so you basically had your choice of every single legendary gem almost immediately. And the way it works now is, I mean, I had like 5 legendary gems, and I was like Paragon, 65 or something. And if you find, invigorating gemstone and, there's these ones that nobody wants,
yeah,
so they aren't going to work for your build.
If you have bad luck and don't get the ones you need until the very end, you're going to be kind of screwed as far as speed
I was playing Marauders. I didn't get a Bane of the Trapped until like the 18th gem. I was like P155 when I finally got Bane of the Trapped. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I got a Zaze right off the bat, and I got a Bane of the Powerful. So I ended up using those 2 forever.
Those are actually, I think Bane of the Powerful is stronger than a lot of the other ones right at the beginning of the season. I think that's if you get that one early, I think you're actually pretty lucky. Yeah.
But then again, to get that up to the max level, because you have to do so many. Of course, the same thing before. If you chose to upgrade your legendary gem, you couldn't upgrade your greater rift key.
Right.
But it just seems like it takes a lot longer to get them. The other big difference is that, as you mentioned earlier about doing bounties, you spend a lot of time once you get to 70 doing bounties.
Yeah.
You don't just endlessly do rifts like in the old days.
Right, which is good. That's a good thing.
You can, but plus rifts take like 50% longer to clear now.
Yeah.
So which means you gain more levels. But I mean, I was like Paragon 158 or something like that. I had just gotten my second gem to 25, and I still hadn't found all the legendary gems. And that's just so different than what you have in the current game in Season 1 or Season 2.
It is. And I don't think that's bad. It's just different. So, yeah, people get used to it. It'll be fine.
Blizzard hasn't mentioned their theory behind this, but it seems to me that what they've always told us about weapons, like people are like, why can't we just make any weapon we want ancient immediately?
Right.
And they're always like, well, if you find an ancient weapon of some other type, then you'll use it for a while just because it's an upgrade over nothing.
Right.
That just seems to me exactly what they're doing with legendary gems now, where you only have a few, and if you can't find the one you want, you'll just I'll use this one instead, or which one is good when it's only level 3, as opposed to level 25.
Yep.
And that actually totally worked as what I did. I did different gems than I would have been doing ideally.
Yep.
Like I would have been using Ice Blink probably initially because I was having problems with crowd control, but I didn't find an Ice Blink forever. So I think it was like the 17th gem I found. It was like, God, how many have I got? Another. You're just looking along. Oh, great, another absolutely useless gem. Oh boy, another Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. Which is actually a really good gem. At high level and hardcore.
That's a really that gem. Even in softcore in the current Season 3, that gem saved my ass. It made my character be able to clear significantly higher level difficulty. So I think it's going to be a big deal as long as people are varying what they're doing in the game, since there is really a lot more to do now. There wasn't enough pushing you to do bounties in the current game.
I think it's actually fun. I mean, I enjoy doing more stuff. I'm not so fond of Act 5 bounties.
Yeah.
Just all the other stuff. It seems like every game when you start, it's either Act 1 or Act 5 is the bonus bounty.
Yeah.
And I've already got like way too many Act 1 materials because I did a bunch of those before I found a Rorg.
Yep.
And Act 5 takes forever, and I don't want to do it. It makes me unhappy. Mm-hmm. It's like I just needed endlessly. It's funny because Act 3 and Act 4 both look like a slice of pizza. The graphic for the cache, it's like some like rich demon flesh, but it's like a
I'll
triangular.
Take a look at that one.
It's a triangular shape that kind of droops down. It's like a piece of
slice
pizza.
of demon pizza.
So I was like, why do I always need the damn demon pizza? And I never get Act 3 or Act 4 bounties on bonus. Why is it always Act 5? And then if you would suffer through that, then suddenly Act 2 is the bonus bounty. And the reason bonuses are good is because you get an extra Heraldric cache, which doesn't have any items in it usually, but does have the same amount of
materials.
Heraldric cache materials.
And materials are a lot bigger deal now, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and you get they kind of come too early. If you're at T6 or above, you get at least 3, and I think above T8 you start getting 4. T7 or T8 you start getting 4.
I think it was T8, yeah. That's when.
But it's like you don't really get any. You don't get 10 of them on T10. There's not a real big bump up there.
No, it's not. I think it's going to be. I'm going to be curious just how valuable it is to do T10, not for experience, but for legendary drops. Whether it's the legendary drop rate is going to be significant enough in T10 to make it worth it, even if you can straight clear it fast, but you could clear like T8 that much faster. We'll have to see.
Yeah, eventually, I think the biggest buff is just going to be the experience. I mean, there is a pretty good... When I was gearing up in Season 4, I could do T8 pretty easily when I was like P130 or so. But T9, I really could notice that it took me longer to kill stuff.
Yeah.
And T10, I was like, why is nothing dying? I didn't notice at all when I first brought over characters that could do like GR45.
Right.
But when I was building up my new character, it is a big jump. I mean, it's 5 greater rifts between each one, essentially, between T7, 8, 9, and 10.
Mm. Yeah, that's very significant.
I'm sure everyone knows that. But so T6 is equivalent of GR25, and then it goes 30, 35, 40, 45 at T10.
Yeah, so the jump is even longer between the last two.
Yeah, it's only 2 greater rifts between the lower difficulty levels. And
Isn't it 3?
It's only 3?
I thought it was...
And it's 5 between the higher ones.
See.
Yeah, so it's 2 more.
Okay.
So I mean, you even see that in the Greater Rift menu. When you select your Greater Rift, it actually has a little drop-down menu, and it actually says what the GR is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did see that. It does.
Just handy. Mm-hmm. In the old days, it was just like, we just knew that because we'd seen how the monster hit points progressed. And now Blizzard just says, outright, here's what it is, so it's not too bad.
That's nice.
But the better thing, one of the better things about leveling up once you got to 70, what I mentioned was materials. And I was never bottlenecked on Forgotten Souls or white or blue or yellow materials.
Right.
Death's Breath, yes. I was bottlenecked on those.
And isn't it ridiculous that we're talking about we want more Death's Breaths? Like that, they were the most useless. Like, you need them so bad when you start a new character. And then you have way too many of them. And now we're back to saying, oh, man, we don't have enough.
You remember how one of the old sets, like the 3 or 4 piece bonus, was double Death's Breaths?
Really?
Yeah, it was like Born set or one of those old, Auguild, something like that. I forget which one it is. One of those level 70 crafted sets.
I'll have to go check that.
Had a bonus on a 3 or 4 piece of getting double Death's Breaths.
I'll have to go check that.
And nobody ever cared. I would so have put that on in Season 4 at the start of it. I'm like, I would kill for extra Death's Breaths. And they've changed the drop rate. We did a post a few weeks ago about what's the benefit of higher Torment levels, trying to figure out what's different, because they've really changed stuff now that we have to up to T10.
Yeah, pretty significant.
And so T6 no longer has 100% Death's Breath drops from elites.
Ah.
It's like 80 to 90%, it seems like. If you play, like every 5th one will not drop one.
Interesting.
It seems like.
Yeah.
It seems like now T7 is what you need to play to get guaranteed every elite or goblin. And T8 and higher, you have a chance for doubles.
Double. That's going to be a big
It's pretty
deal.
low on T8. T9 is about 25%, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm really curious, actually.
You've done T10 in Season 4. Not Season 4, but the new patch.
Yeah.
But I haven't done T10 much in Season 4, so I'm not sure if it's 30, 40, 50%. But you really want those double Death Breaths, so they're really nice.
Yeah, I'm curious exactly when they go and rebalance Kanai's cube, what's going to happen, because just like looking at some of those recipes, like the one, I think there's one in particular, I think it's the one where you re-roll, no, it's where you turn a rare into a legendary, which doesn't seem like a very big deal right now, but I think in combination with Kadala, it's going to allow people to get so many tries at getting the legendary item they want, right? Like, you're just going to be able to go to Kadala, let's say you want, I don't know, like a 2-handed bow, and you try like with, 1,000 shards, and then you take all the yellows you got from her, and you go over and try to turn those into legendary items, the one you want, with Kanai's cube. I think people are going to be ripping through Death's Breath pretty fast if they keep it balanced the same way it is now, right? Because it takes a lot. I think it's like 20 or something. It's something ridiculous. So,
yeah, I just updated the Kanai's Cube page in the DiabloWiki.net just last night, actually. It has all the recipes now listed, typed out, so you can actually read them easily.
Oh, nice.
I'm currently loading that and scrolling down the page. So upgrade rare item is rare item 25's Death's Breath, and it's 50 each of blue, white, and yellow materials.
And the blue, white, and yellow aren't a big deal, but the Death's Breaths definitely are.
Yeah. That one, I did a ton of that one with my imported characters before Season 4 started. And I blew through 2,000 Death's Breaths in like 2 days, so there's no problem.
Got a Death Breath.
The other one that eats a lot now that they're going to change, though, the convert set item is 10 Death's Breath and 10 Forgotten Souls. Yeah. And that's the one Blizzard, like the first day of the patch, they said, okay, this is totally OP, we're going to change this. So
yeah, but their argument for it was so, like, it's just such a specific scenario that they're trying to stop from happening. If the only scenario where that's a problem is focus and restraint, then who gives a damn? Like, that's just stupid. Like, I don't know.
It was actually It was actually a bigger problem with Shenlongs and both Gothos.
Oh, okay.
The other two items, because you could just roll those two. You had perfect ancient weapons in both slots. And at Focus Restraint, they drop so often anyway, and they're always socketed now, so it's like it's hard not to get a good one.
Yeah.
And also with Danetta's bows for the Demon Hunter, but those aren't as popular as. But Shenlongs is just that's the reason every monk is doing GR75 solo.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Shenlongs is wildly OP, and they're all doing it with like 3,400 DPS perfect ancient ones.
I haven't tried that, but after reading the patch notes, I just immediately knew
you got about a day and a
half
to do it, so jump in.
It's gonna get nerfed. There's no way. I just looked at the patch notes and I said, "There's no way that's gonna survive one patch cycle. It's totally gonna be."
Monks jumped almost 20 greater rifts immediately, just thanks to that. The damage of that is just absolutely obscene. The damage you get with two Shenlongs.
Yeah, it's just the IK of Season 4, basically. Everybody's going to cry, just like all the barbs cried when the IK got nerfed, and then they all ran out and became the most powerful class. Everybody's going to cry that Shenlongs got nerfed, and then maybe monks are going to be the best. So we'll see.
Yeah, so they're definitely changing the set item. Obviously, all the recipes may be changed in price and cost, etc. I think the first one, the extract legendary power, the reforged legendary item one, is probably too pricey.
Yeah.
Which is 5 of each of the cash bounties and 50 forgotten souls. No
50 forgotten souls is pretty ridiculous, but I guess they don't want people using that one very often. They want you playing the game like hunting for legendaries rather than trying to re-roll every single legendary that you find. But on the other hand, any legendary you get that you want, you're going to want to re-roll it until you get it to something good. So it's kind of a balancing act, I guess.
That one seems like it's really the long-term, season-long item sink, gold sink, material sink.
Yeah.
The theory I've heard people say for a lot of these they haven't said how they're going to fix the set item one because it really is useful. I mean, I noticed that when I was leveling up in Season 4. I kept finding Marauder's gloves, and I couldn't find a damn hat.
I can see just how it'd be useful.
And so, the idea of this is that, it re-rolls a set item to any other item in the set randomly.
Yeah.
So that works fine with a 6 or 7 or 8 piece set, because you've only got, a small chance of getting the one you want. And obviously getting the one you want with good stats and ancient is very, very small
very,
chance.
very small chance.
But it's so cheap to do, the material cost of it is so low that people were it was really easily abused with 2 item sets. But it's great if you want, just one more. So I kept trying to get, the last thing in my set, and I kept finding, pants and gloves and whatever I didn't want, and it's like you just keep rolling those until
you get it.
Your materials run out, or you get an extra shot at it.
Yeah.
It's a little easier than just gambling helms all day or whatever.
Yeah, you do that in combination with gambling helms and with upgrading rares to legendary items, and then something's going to happen, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, it definitely makes the 6-piece set quicker to get.
Yeah.
But what suggestion I've heard for that is they should increase the cost each time you do the same item. And that would be the same thing with the reforging of legendaries. Like the first time you do it, it's just one of each, and then it's 2, and then it's 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
that would be nice.
Which is just how enchanting works today,
Yeah, that way you have to still go out and play the game and get stuff, which I think that's a very, very good remedy to the problem, and we'll see if they do that.
And then also, it's not such an incredibly expensive price when you're, Paragon 7 and you're trying to do it the first time.
Yeah, some of those
and
are just over the top.
You're looking at, I'll be Paragon 80 before I have all these materials even once. It's like, that's crazy, but, the first one's always free, right?
Yeah, that's actually, that's going to take a significant amount of recoding on their part, but I think that would... my only concern there is I think what's happening in the game right now is, as far as the database and items are concerned, is that when you re-roll a legendary via that specific recipe, it just completely clears the item of every single piece of data they had on it. So, for example, if you were to go and play around with the Mystic with a legendary item and you got it up to where it cost, like 3 million gold to try to re-roll it, and then you said, well, I'm just going to, completely re-roll this item by a Kanai's cube, and then you went back to the Mystic, it would be reset to costing next to nothing. So they'd have to actually do a fairly significant recode to put that system in place. We'll have to see what happens.
Well, coming soon to Diablo 3, then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They have no problem. Their coding is always really quick and accurate, so it shouldn't be any problem. 2017.
There you go.
It's the 3rd expansion.
Actually, so everybody I've talked to, when you go and get Kanai's cube out of the ruins, like, obviously everybody goes up and the Barbarian King is there, and you try to click him and the time is not right. And everybody's like, okay, this is the next expansion. This has to do with what's coming to the game. Like, they give you this little teaser right there, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so everybody wants to know what's going to happen with that.
Or else it's just content that's going to be in the patch and it's not on the PTR yet. Who knows?
Yeah, that's
Keeping surprises. Sorprendido.
Ah.
So, the other thing about materials is there's no longer two different types of materials. You find the same stuff from level 1 all the way to level 70 now.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, I'd read that, but I hadn't seen it yet.
Yes, you don't get to 70 and have these materials that you're never ever going to use again, or you can only upgrade at 10 to 1 or something. So it is kind of weird finding like a Forgotten Soul at like level 7 or something, but you do, and you get them.
That's really
you
good.
find more of those from Guardians now than you used to.
Yeah.
The Green Goblins drop stacks of like 4 and 5 Forgotten Souls all the time.
Nice. You know, and that's good because there was really no reason for it. I think originally when the game came out and they thought that getting to level 70 was like this huge deal, and the fact that you had to do it like over and effing over again for every single character with no Paragon levels, like, yeah, at that point maybe it made sense, but now it just doesn't, so that's a really good improvement.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, just the materials are pretty well balanced. I was never totally out of whites or blues or yellows or whatever. I mean, you can't like enchant, you can't get all happy enchanting at level 42 or something, right? I mean, you got to be very stingy with this stuff. But it's not like you're just helpless and you just like I'll never find enough Forgotten Souls to do anything until I'm Paragon's 50.
Yeah.
You don't get that feeling anymore. It's much nicer. And so Death Breath, I was running out of immediately once I even got to 70. So just I don't even pick those up in Season 2. I mean, it's been forever. I don't even bother. It's like, why stop for it? I've got 2,000 in my stash.
Yeah, but not anymore. I mean, anybody that's been on the PTR already knows you need to pick up everything right now in Season 3 on your character. Don't skip anything anymore because it's all going to actually be really, really useful. So.
Yeah, even the only thing you kind of get enough of are yellow materials after a while.
Not even that. Looking at unless they significantly tweak some of those recipes in Kanai's Cube. I mean, basically, you're just screwing yourself out of being able to, access more of Kanai's Cube more quickly by not picking everything up right now in the current game.
Part of it is because you can now convert materials, and so since white materials you get like 2 to 6 from them, and blues you get like 2 to 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
But because you can convert them with no cost, I mean, no loss of materials. If you're filling up your inventory, and you don't want to make 40 trips back to town. You're better off with a white or a blue item in your stash than a yellow one if you're just going to salvage it.
That's true.
Because it's essentially worth 3, 4, 5 times the amount of materials, and you can just convert them whatever you want. Yeah. Hopefully they won't dick around with the converting recipes because I have no need to ever convert any gem types or material types in Season 4 so far.
Right.
But long term you probably will.
Yeah, definitely.
But they were just really evenly balanced. I was amazed by it. Like at P150 I had like 1,400 of all 3. Yeah. Which would never
that would never
would
have happened in the current game.
Yeah, one other change in the patch that you probably saw some of. Reflex damage works differently now.
Oh,
I think they might be changing it in the patch.
I actually put some notes in to talk about all the elite affixes in general here in this. Yeah, and
so currently, I'll get to. I'll let you remember that in a second. Yeah. But just currently, the way reflex damage works is, it's been changed about 5 times in Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls over time. Yeah. But the way it works now is it's very clearly obvious which has it. And if you get a boss and his, you get champions or you get an elite and his minions, like 1 to 4 of them will have it at once. 1 to 3, something like that.
Yeah, all of them. In general,
sometimes
all of
none
them
of them
have it right now. On at the same time, you're saying, right?
Yeah, all of them can have it, but it's not always active. I mean, you get stages now in the game, in Season 3, in the live game, where 1, 2, 3 of them will have it, and then nothing will have it.
And then nothing will have it, yeah. Yeah.
The way it works on the PTR now is it's always on one monster, but never more than
one. And the damage that it reflects back has been, I don't know how many times they doubled it and doubled it again, and then maybe even doubled it again, right? So
they brought Jay Wilson back just for this item.
It's absolutely totally over the top, and I think this is just one of those situations where they had a design theory on how they thought it should work, and it utterly failed because. Right, in Season 3 right now, you do have DPS windows where there is no reflex damage on any of the elite monsters at all. So you can say, okay, I can DPS full bore, and no matter who I hit, I'm not going to take any damage. But now, with the change, basically, if you simply look cross-eyed at the one particular elite that actually has reflex damage on it, you die. So there is no DPS window. Because unless you can completely split all of the elites up and get them all to like some different area on the map so that you don't have to deal with them all at once, which is not possible at all. They always run together. Like, you're always going to end up reflecting damage back onto yourself, which means you have no window to do any DPS at all. So it's actually broken, and they're going to have to fix it. There's absolutely no way they can put it in the game the way it is right now. Well,
and if you were a character that didn't exist in the game now, i.e. something who had like a single target damage as your main skill,
yeah.
It would be awesome. The way it works now would be great. You would just hit the one that didn't have it active. It would be completely easy.
Yeah.
But if you're any kind of major AoE, full screen, Natalia's stinning everything,
if you're
whatever.
any class in the entire game right now that actually has
if you're any build in the entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, witch doctors think it's the worst thing in the world because you can't tell your fetishes not to shoot at the one that's spiky,
Well, no, your pets don't actually do any. They don't reflect damage back onto you, so it doesn't matter. It's only damage that you do.
I've seen many witch doctors say it's instant death. If they get near it, their fetishes start shooting darts, they're just dead.
That's a bug. That's a bug then. That's crazy because the way that you deal with it, that's actually a big plus of the Marauder set right now, is that with the Marauder set, you set up your sentries around it, and then you run off and you shoot your own cluster arrow off in some random-ass direction away from the elite pack, and you just have your sentries kill it, and it solves the problem. So the Demon Hunter is the only class in the game right now that can actually handle that broken-ass to fix.
If you're not playing in Natalia's yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Marauders. Well, as we know, Blizzard loves Demon Hunters, so there's no surprise.
Yeah. I know that from D3V, just how much they love them, let me tell you.
They should just make Demon Hunters immune to reflex damage personally.
There you go.
And if other classes die, well, that's the price they choose to pay.
Yeah. But
have you tried speaking of Demon Hunters, have you tried the new passive, the massive leech damage one?
The new passive?
There's a new passive that is just a huge amount of damage per hit. It's like 17,000 life per hit.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, I
haven't used it.
That's a waste. If it doesn't up your DPS, no one cares. Especially in software. But
it will save you from reflex damage. It's the anti-reflex damage passive.
Okay, well, if that's the only reason it's in the game, it still sucks. So, yeah.
I was actually playing my Natalia's last night. I'm worrying about reflex damage and wondering, because I'm softcore, I don't really need my 6th skill. I'm used to having perfection there.
Right.
Which you don't really need that much.
I never use perfection. I don't know what.
That's what you use in hardcore, because if you ever run out of discipline entirely and you need to vault or smokescreen, then bad things happen.
Okay, I see.
But in this, I'm trying to figure out what to put the 6th one on. The fanaticism kind of sucks, etc. I was looking at I'm already forgetting the name. Not March for Death. Shadow Power.
Oh, okay.
Shadow Power has 14. It costs 14 discipline, and it gives you 16,000 life per hit for 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. That's skill. Right.
One form of it doubles that. One form of it gives you 32,000 life per hit per second.
So that doesn't matter.
You stick that in your 6th skill, you are not going to die to.
Oh yes, you are. That's a joke, because if in a higher greater rift, you're still going to insta-give by reflex damage. So that's a meaningless amount of life per hit. It means nothing. If you take 2 million damage from reflex damage, then 32,000 life doesn't mean a thing. So no. It's useless. Sorry.
Then again, you're softcore and you have like 14 toughness, so...
Yeah, I have
exactly
14 toughness. All my resists are really high for softcore, dude. They're like 200.
Really? That much?
Yeah,
that's
super
awesome.
High.
Well, your dexterity gives you armor, so at least you have that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have 14,000 dexterity, so at least you got something there.
Yep.
Yeah, so reflex damage seems to be pretty much broken, and I guess we'll probably see something in this patch this week. Hopefully that will change that around in some way.
Yeah.
How can it ever work? I mean, aside from just nerfing the damage and making it pointless, like they did with Jailer.
Right.
Like, what is the point? How can this ever work in a game where every class has full-screen AoE full-time?
I think it was fine the way it was before. I don't really see... I didn't necessarily like it, but the reason I didn't like it before had nothing to do with the fact that it would kill me. It had to do with the fact that when you're running a greater rift, hitting an elite pack that has shield or reflects damage slows you down. So when you've got something that's timed, and then you've got something specifically designed to make you not be able to kill it, it just sucks, right? But no, I think they could just... That's when they could just say, okay, we just have to revert it. This didn't fulfill our design goals, and we failed, and so we're just going to revert it back to the way it was. I wouldn't have an issue with that. No.
So there can't be a single elite modifier in the entire game that doesn't just say the solution is not more DPS.
Well, if there's something...
This is the one thing in the game that more DPS doesn't help you against.
Okay.
This thing, we have to get rid of that. It's unfair.
Nothing helps you against it. The solution to reflect damage is do nothing. And that's if they think that standing around waiting is fun, then yeah, I think they should make the commonality of shielded and reflex damage higher. You know, more elite packs should spawn with them because obviously running around waiting for like 10 or 20 seconds to be able to deal damage is a blast, right? We love it. But no.
This is the company that hosts BlizzCon every year. They obviously think standing around waiting for nothing is fun. Yeah. I've done many hours of that in Anaheim Convention Center.
with smelly fat people that were mad at you because you were in the way of them getting to their World of Warcraft, like, I don't know, presentation or something.
Yeah, there's a World of Warcraft card trading game they're ready for. Oh, wait, that is a cool thing. Everyone loves that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think overall, though, I really liked what they did with most of the elite affixes. Jailer in particular, I was really happy with because they said, okay, Jailer is no longer there to insta-kill you. It's there to put crowd control on you and force you to spend resources to escape or take damage from monsters that are going to run up and hit you in the face. That's what I wanted, right? And I think it was Frozen, like to go back to playing a Greater Rift on the current Season 3 just standard server, to find that the issue with, like, for example, Frozen right now is you are almost dead before you can even see Frozen on your screen. You're like, oh, something's doing a shit ton of, and then it appears below your feet because you start taking damage before your client even draws Frozen there. So you're almost dead before you know it. Same thing with Thunderstorm. You're almost taking damage before you can see the damn thing. So they fixed that. You still take a bunch of damage if you just stand there, but if you move, you avoid damage, they fixed almost every other major problem with what I was always ranting about zero counterplay affixes. That's almost all fixed. It's almost all better. But now we're just dealing with the reflex damage that's completely over the top.
Yeah, so Jailer, they did what? They cut the damage by half and they increased the duration by 50%, basically?
Yep.
So you're stuck in it for like a second and a half now, but it doesn't do that much damage. I'm surprised. I think it's actually too low on the damage. It seems like it's almost irrelevant now.
I don't think it... I think it could do no damage, and that would be fine. The point of Jailer shouldn't be... Because if it does damage, then it's just like... It's just another one of those, the monster looks at you and you instantly die abilities. And those aren't fun. Like I always rant on, zero counterplay equals zero fun. So I'm happy with it the way it is now. I mean, obviously, if you make it to like GR 100, it's going to still kill you instantly, but they'll.
But so will everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be fair, monsters can cast Jailer on you without looking at you.
Yeah.
They don't actually have to do that. They can just be going in some other direction totally, and suddenly it just appears underneath your feet.
It just appears underneath your feet. Yep.
Now you know how black people feel.
Yeah.
You're just walking around, and suddenly there's like 5 police officers there.
And
like, I did nothing.
Suddenly you're arrested for being a black person.
And possibly suffocated in the broad daylight in the middle of the street.
Yeah, that's funny to us, but it's for any of you foreign listeners out there, it really isn't funny, because that's really what's happening in America.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Especially when it's you being suffocated.
Yeah. But no, I think overall I'm happy with all the affixes, and but they're going to change reflex damage. In fact, I would go as far as to say that in the next patch it's going to be adjusted. That's my prediction. Yep.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Years ago when I was doing martial arts in the Bay Area a lot, one of the guys in my class, this guy named Maurice, who was huge. He was like he was like a linebacker with massive dreadlocks. Very dark-skinned guy. Super nice, super friendly, great to spar with, etc. And he used to go out and walk in parks a lot, in like nature parks in the Bay Area with his girlfriend. And he was super into martial arts. So he would mimicking and pantomiming, punching trees and stuff, and not actually doing anything, but like practicing like feng shui kind of movements and stuff.
Right.
And he had this really cute Indian girlfriend who was like a really expert belly dancer.
Oh.
So she was awesome. She'd hang around class sometime, and you can like look up her videos on YouTube if she's a belly dancer. I'm not gonna tell her name, but anyway. And so one time he was walking in some park with his girlfriend, and they got back to their car afterwards, and like 4 police cars just pulled up, and someone was like, we had reports of like a man who was like making violent motions towards other hikers. And he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He's like, "I'm walking in the woods with my girlfriend doing like feng shui in like a clearing, And And like some white person thought, oh, there's like a big muscular black guy like waving his hands around. Better call the police.
Yeah.
So, like the park rangers and like 4 cops showed up. So that's what it's like being black in America, basically.
Yeah. And then I bet the best part is
meanwhile, there's like a white guy in a Walmart with a machine gun right now. And it's like, oh, it's fine. He's white. It's okay.
He's white.
It's Second Amendment rights. It's okay. Nothing bad can happen here.
Yeah. It's America. So great.
If at all possible in America, be born not dark-skinned.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Talk to your parents about that before you're conceived. See how that works out. So that digression aside, any other patch stuff? You said you might be playing some of the Season 4 when they reset it this week?
Yeah, I might do some testing just because I want to see if I even want to play Season 4 next time. That'll be in about a month. What's some other stuff? Oh, yeah, so here's a really deep question. Should they change the name of wardens from KeyWardens to MachineWardens? I mean, they don't even drop keys anymore, right?
Yeah, I've been joking with that. I've been doing a news post saying, key and then striking through it and then saying MachineWardens.
Yeah.
MachineWardens is a terrible name, though. It's like something in a Tool video, which is not a bad thing exactly. I enjoy Tool videos, but it sounds like an old Nine Inch Nails ripoff band. Hey, we're MachineWarden, man.
Yeah.
Head like a gasket.
Head like a gasket.
It's like, I don't know, it just seems cheesy. I mean, KeyWarden, it fits better. It fits on the map. You have a little key icon next to the next to the level they're in.
Yeah, yeah.
But technically, yes, they no longer drop keys. They should have just made the damn recipe so the keys are what you use. That would have been cool.
That would have been a lot better. But
keys unlock portals. What the hell's a machine,
Yeah, and then, you know what? They took away there's no more demon penis you can get from Act 4. I mean, it was you got 3 keys and a demon penis, and you put them all together, and you made these machines, and now there's no more demon penis. What can you say?
Speaking of Nine Inch Nails albums,
yeah,
I think that was their third. That was Halo 17, Demon Penis. That was a collaboration with Marilyn Manson. So any other? Yeah, so that's obviously a thing. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that they're now keywords.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if people aren't aware of it, you can get multiple keys from the same keyword on T9 and T10.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but
nice.
Of course you can do that now, but it's totally random. It seems like, but.
Yeah.
I got it fairly often, at least before Season 4 started, doing it on T10. I was getting multiple keys. And you get multiple organs from the Ubers above T6.
Oh, that's sweet. That's really going to be
I think you get at least 2 every time on T6 or higher, and if you get above T9, you can get 3.
That alone is going to make farming that amulet a lot nicer, because I haven't done it in ages just because it's so frustrating in its current state. So that's good.
Yeah, I don't know what the percent drop is on T10 for the MachineWardens. It's definitely higher than 50%.
Yeah.
I did a fair number of those. It wasn't 100%. I haven't done it.
No, it's not. I have not had very good luck getting keys put them out.
But I think it was about 75% when I was doing it. But I mean, it's hard to say when that was the point where game creation took 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like you could do 20 trials real quick and add them up. You would do 2 a day and then extrapolate.
Yeah.
You get 7 out of 8 or something in 2 games on T10, so it was pretty common.
Yeah.
But I can see eventually people doing speed runs on T10.
Yep.
And every 4 machines you can get 3 Hellfire amulets, and they always have the socket now. So
yeah.
Your odds of a BIS Hellfire amulet I've gotten like 100 times better than they used to be.
They're a lot better. And on top of that, I mean, now that you can use that trinket slot for something else. So even though a Hellfire amulet does not, give you some power that another amulet did, you can make up for that. So that's a nice little plus there.
Yeah, Hellfire amulets are much more accessible, and I think that's going to be almost a mandatory thing eventually.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I'm trying to get them in Season 4 even. I've had bad luck getting amulets, but you really want, for some builds, if you're doing Marauders, there's so many useful passives.
Yeah. There are.
Yeah, some builds, there's about 8 passives that are just totally awesome, and some builds there's like 3, and there's a bunch of them you don't really care that much about.
Yeah.
But so if you're one of those builds where there's like 6 passives you really want, it's worth trying for.
Yeah.
Even with a socket, it's so hard to get a good roll, but it's not that hard anymore.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Did you have any other note points you wanted to get through?
I have a couple of small things. Like I guess now that you've got Kanai's Cube in the game, how long is it until every single legendary has a unique suffix? In other words, there's something besides obviously set items that every single red has some special power that it gives you that can be dropped into Kanai's Cube, because there's still reds in the game that don't do anything, right? That are just a unique. They're just a big stat stick, and that obviously that's not very good anymore. They're always going to be crappy, and you never want them now, and you'll want them even less with Kanai's Cube in the game. So it's. Do you think that'll ever happen? Every single one.
That was like the audiobook version of the Battle.net forums right there. Like every other thread I see. How come there's still legendaries without cool properties? Jay Wilson sucks, which of course is true. But yeah, I mean, they've added what? They're adding, they're retrofitting, 8 or 10 per patch. It seems like.
Yeah. So there's
still probably 60 or 100 that suck. So they don't have any property at all.
Yeah, I think.
Of course, doesn't mean they're good. None of the ones for Demon Hunters are really good for Natalia's. The one belt they made the belt that's the ideal belt for the UE set now.
Yeah, the crashing. Oh no, the UE set. That's the one that
a new belt for
buffs
UE
your attack
that makes,
speed or it buffs the damage on your primaries, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like 30% damage and 30% less cost, or 30% reduced damage, something like that, for your primaries. Yeah. But it seems like actually that might not be good. I think there was a debate about whether or not that works for Kreider Shot. I don't recall what the answer was.
The answer is probably no. I think there was a blue post specifically about that.
Yeah, there's also a new bracer that's really good for Demon Hunters. It's not ideal, but I'm not using any of them on Natalia's. But I mean, most other classes have gotten a couple of new items that are basically Blizzard is not idiots completely.
To our surprise, yeah.
Yeah, although the Battle.net forums would argue otherwise, but they are able to look at these sets and say, okay, here you are at here you are at GR 47, and here's your set, and there's no good shoulders or no good belt or whatever, and they say, well, what would be an ideal belt for this set?
Yeah.
And then you get something that's 80% of that in the next patch.
Yep.
Obviously, shoulders are still the spot that nobody has a good shoulders on the whole game.
Yeah, the entire game. That's pretty.
Like Vile Ward for barbs is good. So if you have one charge build, I guess, but everyone else just uses the Act 1 one, for the 1 chance in 1,000 that you get a free resurrection from it. So the Act 1 Herald Cash one, but yeah. So shoulders seem like a good place to add something. Most people have obviously a set item in their shoulders.
Yeah.
Shoulders in their set. One of those words like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, other stuff, they're definitely doing it. I'm still waiting for the resources, for the Obzod version of a resources jewelry piece.
Well, that would be broken, and that kind of is a segue into the sort of last thing I wanted.
Like, where's the Pride's Fall ring, basically?
Yeah. Well, the problem there is that, I mean, with the way Kanai's cube works, I mean, right now you're able to run Pride's. I put a Pride's Fall into Kanai's cube immediately, and then after that, I just started using, the Cinder Coat, and I was running the Reaper's Wraps, and so basically any fire build right now has infinite resources, and it's so beyond if you can run a fire build with any class, you can spam things that are supposed to cost you a ton of resource, particularly with the Demon Hunter and with Hatred. Just basically infinitely, and the amount of damage you're putting out is just absolutely ridiculous. And if you think about that, and you think about, say, Unhallowed using multi-shot, it's just going to be out of control. So I can't see them putting any other type of resource reduction item in the game at this point. I mean, unless... Of
course, they added the perfect bow for multi-shot in this patch.
Yeah, exactly.
Which reduces the cost and makes multi-shot shoot faster.
So. And then...
The funny thing I think is they made the whole UE set and obviously thought it was for multi-shot, and everyone used it with Kreider Shot and lightning bolts. And they're like, well, goddamn it, we'll fix that, and we'll put a perfect bow in there just so you'll have to use multi-shot with this set.
Yeah.
We're sick of you Kreider Shot son of bitches.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Obviously... What you were saying about them making a set that only uses one ability is basically moronic in the first place. So I mean, if people can figure out how to do something besides that, that's good. And I think they should embrace people. They should change the set. They shouldn't try to change what people are building. Obviously.
Yeah, the whole one skill set thing.
That's just stupid.
Of course, all the new Witch Doctor sets are like 7 skill sets, and all of them suck. So maybe it's harder to design to make 7 different skills work. Like you have to stack all these different skills on top of each other. It's like, I mean, people like the Tal set for wizards. It's basically just for Meteor, and people love it.
Yeah, that's true.
Natalia's is just for Reign of Vengeance, and that one's awesome. So I mean,
but Natalia's really isn't. Reign of Vengeance is just a segue into you doing a butt ton of damage with all your other abilities, while Reign of Vengeance does a butt ton of damage on top of itself. So that really isn't an issue for me there.
I would define it as all your other abilities are just there to enable you to do butt ton of damage on Reign of Vengeance.
I think it's a cycle of death, the cycle of Demon Hunter destruction. Okay.
Okay, any final thoughts, dude?
No. Other than I think there's going to be a ton of great tests or great builds that come out of this. That we've just touched the surface on new builds, and with the more time we have to play around on the PTR, and with it going live on the main server and being accessed by more players, I think we're definitely going to find significantly more builds that are going to be nice. So I'm excited. Yep.
Yeah, that's been the one thing disappointing about Kanai's Cube. I mean, before we had it, it was all this like theory crafting. What could you do? And then once it came out, it's like Rorg and Furnace. That's what we can do. Rorg and Furnace, and possibly Furnace and Rorg. and then Leoric's crown doesn't work, so it was a little limited to start. I mean, some builds are more interesting to find stuff. I was, the one thing that's really noticed when I was playing Marauders in Season 4 is suddenly I'm putting Convention of Elements in my ring slot, and it's like, hey, suddenly I'm doing 4 times the damage.
That's pretty disgusting, yeah.
Yeah, like you don't really notice Convention of Elements with Natalia's because you're just always casting Random Vengeance every time it's available.
Right.
So it's a steady state. And occasionally, when I would use Convention of Elements with that, before I was using Focus Restraint full time, you get that quad damage of your 2 billion belt shot, right?
Right.
So you're doing 12 billion crits occasionally or something. That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Instead of 2.5 billion crits.
That's just crazy.
But it's not that common. But when you get that with Marauders, if you can actually because Marauders is so much about burst.
Yeah.
It's burst and you do nothing for 5 seconds kind of thing.
It's
right?
not like that anymore. Go. Yeah, with Prize Fall.
I haven't found a goddamn Prize Fall. I mean, how many goddamn Act 3 bounties are in Season 4? I've got Hexing Pants, which you can use, but you got to jump around.
Oh no, I wouldn't use that. No.
But I have not found a Prize. I've done Act 3 bounties many times in Season 4. Never found a Prize Fall helmet, so it's hard for me to judge.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to ask you next when you find one. See, that's the thing why I was saying Marauders.
I'm not going to find one. This one's ending tomorrow, dude. It's too late.
Oh, dun. Well, when you get back up to level 70.
I could just import and use Marauders on one of my characters, but that's hardcore there. But still,
yeah. No, it's completely changed the dynamic of how that set works, and it's much more powerful than it was before. I really even haven't found a particularly good reason, even though obviously I've collected both of the sets on the test server, to switch off of Marauders because I'm doing so much damage with it. Because I'm basically almost my downtime where I cannot fire a cluster arrow is so incredibly. Such a small window, it's almost always up. I'm just endlessly spamming cluster, so it's definitely worth giving it a try once you find that Prize Fall.
Maybe it'll bring M6 back. Yep. I still think UE set sucks, by the way, so I'm happy Marauders at least is somewhat fun. The skill required to use UE is lacking, and it makes me unhappy.
Yeah, it's not for.
The whole stand at the edge of the screen, alternate left and right clicks shouldn't be the end game strategy the whole time. But anyway, apparently John likes it, so he made a new bow forge this past year.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts? We have reached our time allotment, and have you talked yourself into Season 4 yet? Now you've been talking about the last half hour how awesome it's going to be. You're like, yeah, I got to play this now.
No, I'm gonna maybe try it on the PTR a little bit, and then I'm gonna think about whether I even have time to do it on the main server. So we'll see. Yep.
Yeah, so the wipe is coming this week. By the time this podcast will be posted on Monday, it'll probably be coming Monday night or Tuesday. We're doing that, and the new patch, and everything we've said here will become irrelevant and superseded by new patch notes.
It's the patch is why this podcast and we are relevant. It's not us. It's not anything we say or do. It's because of the new patch on the PTR. That's why we're relevant, folks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was busy tomorrow, so I had to do it Sunday nights, Saturday nights, when no one else was available but you. So good thing you were here, though.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, man. Uh-huh. You've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at Diablo Inc. DiabloII.net. And I'll put links in the YouTube description if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever. But I mean, everything we talked about here, we've had pretty detailed articles about in the last couple of weeks, like with all the screenshots of the game stuff, certainly all the seasonal journey stuff. So if you're wondering what our terrible attempts at describing what these achievements are, you can actually see what they really are. And certainly all the Kanai's Cube recipes and that kind of stuff. So there'll be links for that stuff, and you can inform yourself. And Blizzard has still said that they're aiming for August still. They told us forever ago 4 months for season 3. Yeah. Which ends August 9th or something like that. So we're not totally I'm trying not to end every podcast for a while talking about are we going to see the expansion of Gamescom. So we skipped that tonight, but we at least know that Season 4 is going to be starting up in August at some point.
Yeah, we've got something else on our mind besides the expansion right now, right? We've actually got new content that we can play and try. So our little pathetic mind.
But only in Heroes of the Storm, yes.
Yeah.
That's in Heroes of the Storm, right? You mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Not in Diablo 3. It'll put Diablo 3 content in Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening, and moo. Barba, moo.